All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tech Drop-In, wherever you are. So today we're going to share a bit more continue on what we have been talking about on the NetBackup 10. Today we're going to focus right in on cyber resiliency. Right. So just before we begin, I'm going to introduce the team that's online today that's going to help us. We're going to present through the contents together with us. So today we have, once again, our very popular Chik San. Right, he's our technology practice lead from APJ that's taking care of backup and recovery. So it's glad to have him back here today with us again. And today on the panelists, we have two of our technical architects joining us across the region as well. We have David from Indonesia, and we have also Kok Kyong from Singapore. So good to have them on board with us as they help us answer any questions that you may have. So just a reminder, if you do have any questions, do go into the Q&A box, key in any questions that you have, any burning questions, anything that you want to get off straight off your mind, right? We are here to help you address any of your queries, right? And if you can't, we definitely will want to follow up with you for any answers from there as well. So once again, I'm Daniel. I'm actually based out of Singapore. So for all of you out there that's joining us from Singapore, once again, welcome. And also across the region, good to see you again as well. So once again, as a reminder, today we have something for the best contributing question as well. Right, for those of you that are having the best question out there, post-event, after the event, we'll be reaching out to you to follow up with you with an Amazon gift card as well. So do send forth your best questions out there. Anything that you want to know, just fire off away from us. Okay, so next. Today, before I pass the time over to Chik San, I'm just going to briefly recap again what is about NetBackup 10. Right, I think a couple of weeks ago, I myself actually went through a NetBackup introduction. Right, just as a quick recap of what NetBackup 10 is all about. Right, NetBackup 10 is actually built on the latest and greatest cloud scale technology that Veritas has. It actually focuses around three main areas. Right, the first area is about cloud optimization. Right, how do we ensure customers are able to still perform their data management capabilities in a multi-cloud environment? Right, how do they best achieve the utilizations of NetBackup if they want to move NetBackup services into the cloud as well? Another area that we made a lot of improvements in is actually in the area of automated operations. And how do we allow some of these elastic cloud services to be adopted within NetBackup, right? Thereby directly reducing costs, because end of the day, what we want to do is to make sure that cost is optimized as well, right? When we perform such operations. Of course, lastly, the last area that we're going to focus in NetBackup 10, which today we're going to talk about, is cyber resiliency. Right? How do we actively perform all these cyber defenses capabilities within our data protection capabilities? How do we ensure, for example, as a use case to prevent, right, to be more protected against a ransomware attack scenario, for example? Right. So today, before I pass the time over to Chik San, maybe I want to take a quick poll, right? Want to understand in your environment, right? What is the most important capability that you think is most important that you need to have, right? Is it the ability to identify and recover from a last known good copy, for example, in a malware attack scenario, right? In order to not prevent, allow any malware attack to resurface again? Do you think it's good to have that capabilities? What about time to recovery? Is this something that is most critical, right? Of course, lastly, then is the cost. Right? Its cost element is always something that you're always looking at to reduce cost, right? Or to optimize the environment. So out of these three, basically would appreciate if you can key in, choose one. Which of these capabilities is the most important that you think you must have within your backup infrastructure? So we look forward to everybody's participation as the polls come in, fast and furious. Just give it a couple of seconds more. Right, appreciate everybody's active participation in the polling questions. This will help us to understand as well what we are seeing, the sentiments, the considerations of almost our partners, our customers out there, right? So that we can then better curate, our products, our features and enhancement towards all this feedback as well. Do we have the poll ready? All right. Okay. Once again, so the highest rating percent, more than 50%, is actually wanting to have the capability to identify and recover from the last known good copy. Well, of course, the rest are also equally important as well. But today, that's where we are here today to actually talk about that. How do we ensure that you're able to actually recover from that last known good copy? So I'll pass the time over to Chik San for him to share more in this area. Over to you, Chik San.
Thank you, Daniel. Good day, everyone. Thanks for taking time to attend this tech drop-in. So in this session, I'm going to talk about our abilities of cyber resiliency. So we have put up 3 different steps of helping our customers, organizations, to be able to protect themselves against any of the cyber attacks, which is quite, I would say, regular nowadays. So these 3 steps are to protect, and then to be able to detect, and then lastly, if they are hit with any of those malwares, then to be able to quickly recover, but also to ensure that whatever they are recovering is a clean copy. As the poll has suggested, a lot of you are very concerned about what is the last known good copy that they are able to recover from. Now, without further ado, let's proceed with the first step, which is to protect. Now, as you know, being able to protect is not only about backing up those data at the workloads. Workloads will be the front end, for example, your applications like Oracle, SQL, all this information or all this data, but also protecting the backup copy itself as well as the backup servers. So with NetBackup, we are able to provide a means of protecting the backup servers. For example, using our appliances, we have locked down the entire platform so that we only allow approved list of services as well as personnel to be able to log into the system, and as well as being able to provide worm capabilities or immutable storage so that is able to protect the backup copy as well, or the backup data itself. Now, we have provided this support since the previous version of NetBackup, which is 9.1. Now, moving forward, we are expanding that capabilities onto other storages. For example, those are in the public cloud or on-prem, like Azure, going at the object level kind of supportabilities for worm capabilities. We are not going at the bucket level, where it so-called restrict the entire storage level or at the bucket level for a certain immutability's duration. What we are doing is more granular, where we go at object level. So every object that is written to that to the object storage will have its own kind of retention or worm capability, worm durations. So for example, the first one that writes to the object will have a retention of, let's say, 1 year. The other objects that's coming in can have a different retention, maybe 2 years, 5 years. So we are providing more granular support of those worm capabilities for expanding beyond just, let's say, AWS to Azure, to Seagate, as well as on-prem storages like Cloudian, as well as Hitachi content platforms. And in the near future, we will be able to support worm capabilities on our own object storage, which is Access Appliance as well. So we are expanding that capabilities beyond just the normal storages, and we are moving ahead to support more storages in the near future. So that's one area. Second area is on when we're talking about cloud storages. So very recently, we have introduced our Veritas recovery vaults for NetBackup. So what it is a hosted secondary storage as a service. So you might be familiar with AWS, you might be familiar with Azure, where they are providing infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, where it's been so-called managed by either yourself or by another third-party vendor or your partners. But what we are offering now is a managed service where Veritas will manage that the storage as a service offerings, so that from a single vendor, you're able to manage or provide that kind of backup on-prem, and then be able to send the data to a hosted environments where it is also managed by Veritas. All in all, you'll be end-to-end solutions where Veritas will help to so-called streamline the portion of being able to protect their on-prem and sending the data to a offsite location where it's being managed by Veritas. And the key value here where Veritas Recovery Vault is able to offer is that it's able to manage the entire cost. So a lot of times when you're using like AWS or Azure, the cost typically will be talking about the storage itself. So how long you want to keep the data, how much data you're keeping. But there's also additional so-called hidden costs of, for example, the sending of data, the egress, the ingress, as well as the API calls, the gets and puts that's been written. So what Veritas Recovery Vault is offering is a bundled solutions where one cost or one subscription cost will cover all these factors from a storage level, as well as the ingress and egress, as well as the API calls that is suitable for your environments. Now, talking about protecting your data. So we have further enhanced the security of the communications between the different hosts. Host means from a server perspective, also from a client. When I talk about client means NetBackup client. So we are strong. We have endorsed a stronger encryptions. So TLS 1.3. So it's faster and more secure, and we can support both encryption in transit as well as at rest. So rest assured that the data kept within or managed within NetBackup will be encrypted and will be secured in your environments, as well as whether you're sending it off to a offsite location. And we can support third-party KMS providers, for example, Thales, Robotics, IBM, and as well as Oracle. So all these third-party has been tested and supported by Veritas. Now, this is the protect portion. Now, moving on, where it becomes more interesting is the detection, where we are able to provide active anomaly detection as well as malware scanning. So as you know, NetBackup is very popular in terms of backing up. So now, since NetBackup 9.1, we are able to introduce anomaly detections post-backup jobs. That means after the backup has finished, based on whatever information that we have collected during the backup, for example, those number of files, number of amount of data, all these things, we will do anomaly detections based on what we have learned in the past through machine learning. So it's being able to reflect those information almost at real time post-backup jobs. After which, you can also do a malware scanning of those backup jobs or those backup images. So we are able to provide an on-demand malware scan through a series of different scan hosts, and also be able to provide automated malware scanning for those that has detected as a high anomaly detection scoring. So later I'll talk more about those scoring in details in the later slides. So we are able to help provide more visibilities into those backup data or backup images, whether they are clean or not. So it provides you a visibility into a last known good copy of the backup. Now we can also provide a kind of assurance and due diligence that if any of the files needs to be recovered, you can scan the data before it is recovered, so that you ensure that this data is clean, so that you know that, okay, before you recover or even before you replicate the data to an offsite location or to a DR site, you can be assured that the data you are replicating or restoring is clean. So you have some status awareness during restore time and only restoring those clean data whenever necessary. Now with this, I would like to also get a poll to understand the what are the malwares or scanners that you are using in your environments. So Daniel, maybe you'd like to help on this question.
So this topic or this area, right, it always generates a lot of interest from our customers. So we want to also know when it comes to malware scanning, exactly which malware scanners are you using in your environment as well, right? We've listed down some of the popular ones, across the region or across the world. So probably just provide your input, right? If you're using more than one, do go ahead and indicate more. Across security, sometimes there's multiple solutions out there, right? A lot of organizations, sometimes they prefer multi-vendor approach from a security perspective as well, right? So of course, we do provide our own malware scanners, but we want to also understand from a market perspective, from your perspective, are there, what are the malware scanners or that you're using within your environment as well? Right? This will also help us, towards developing any roadmap, any integration, if any of these are not being done currently right now, right? As we speak, right, we are already planning to expand our capability to support more and more of this. Basically, is to perform the integration steps to make sure that whatever results input that we get is integrated into the GUI. Right? But technically, from a process workflow perspective, it doesn't stop us from using any malware scanners that you have as well. So do give us your input. Which malware scanners are you currently using in your environment? It is a multiple choice question. So you can key in multiple answers if you're using various of these brands as well. If any of these brands not listed here, you can choose the other option as well. Right? So we do appreciate, and we want to get all this feedback, so that we can then better curate and ensure that our product is capable of supporting your environment. So just give it a couple of seconds more to key in your results, your choice, for us to get that feedback. You just wait for a few more seconds to allow time for everybody to key in. Right, welcome everybody's participation. The more you input, the more we have more feedbacks, and that will help us as well. See that the poll is gone. Do we have the results? All right, okay. We have quite a fair bit of a balanced approach between the top three, I would say. Microsoft Defender, it's Mandak Protection Engine, and next up is McAfee and others, right? Yeah. So definitely, we probably want to also understand for that under the others category, what others are there you're using as well. We definitely will be reaching out to you to get that feedback from you as well. Right. So with this, I'll hand over time back to Jackson.
Thanks, Daniel. Now, before we go to the interesting portion of malware scanning, so let's take a step back and understand what is this anomaly detections that was introduced since 9.1. So we are not going into the contents of detecting those malwares in these anomaly detections. So what we are trying to do is to be able to provide a very quick view of any of the anomalies that is detected during at the end of the backup job. For example, those anomaly activities or anomaly data could be the change in backup file size, the dedupe rates, the amount of files that will be backed up, and amount of times that is in use to complete the backup. So all these are just metadata of the entire backup job. But it provides you good visibilities from a first pass to give you an understanding, okay, is there any significant change in your environments for this host that is being detected, which may cause some concerns to the infrastructure team. So what we are trying to do is to give you visibilities, and through machine learning, we are able to get the past information, that means the past, let's say 15, 20 backup cycles or past few months, and be able to provide you a good view and give you a visibilities of what is actually happening in those backups for this host. Ultimately, what we are trying to do is to ensure that the backups that you have done can be recovered for those data whenever required. Now, to give you some more details, so once the anomaly detection has occurred, we can give you a report. For example, in this case, this is an overall so-called dashboard of all those anomalies that has been detected. So firstly, will be on the anomaly scoring and severities. So the scoring over here, so over here, you can see the anomaly scoring. It ranges from a score of 1 to up to maybe about 50. And we give different scoring based on those metadata information that's been detected and been recorded, and give you a scoring overview. And we also gauge the severity of those anomalies being detected. Now, if you want to drill down, you can click on the drop-down button, and it provides you information about this job or this policy that has been detected for any of those anomalies that's happening. Now, if you want to know what this anomaly is, you can go with the details of these anomalies. For example, the backup file counts have changed from a usual 1 to 8 to 18,000. So the amount of data that has been transferred also changed from a usual past history of let's say less than 1 meg to 52 megs in size. So these are anomalies that has happened. So something might have changed to the host. But if you think that this is normal, you can choose to ignore or confirm as anomalies, or even report as a false positive. So this will help the machine learning algorithms to learn over time whether this is a normal trend or activities, or this is something abnormal that's happening in your environments. So as machine learning goes, the more it detects, the more information it gathers, and provided feedback from the users or from the admin, then the better it learns over time. So this is anomaly detections. Now, this will also extend out to the malware scanning capabilities, which is introduced in NetBackup 10.0. So anything of a high score, which is above 15 over here, will automatically trigger a malware scanning for NetBackup to trigger a process. So what is this process? Now, let me go into more details about this overall process flow for malware detection. So let's say from a NetBackup, so this is the NetBackup infrastructure, the premise server as well as the MSTP media server. So once the first step is to configure a scan host or scan pool, which is over here. Recommendation is always go for a pool of different scan hosts. The scan host can be VM or physical servers, whether Windows or Linux, we can support both of them. And this will provide that infrastructure for the malware scanners to be installed and scan of the backup images. And do note that this is not part of the backup infrastructure. Backup infrastructure is over here. This is outside or out of band of the backup infrastructure. So it will not affect the overall backup process per se. Now, just now I mentioned about the high anomaly scoring. So anything above, let's say 15, which is considered high, will automatically trigger a malware scanner if it's configured. But we can also do an on-demand scanning of a backup. So if, for example, if you want to do a recovery, you want to do an on-demand scan, you want to know that if this is this backups is clean before you do any restore, or is good before you want to do any replication to an offsite location, you can do an on-demand malware scanning. So that is the second step, whether it's automated or demand. Now, the third step is to create instant access of both either Windows or standard backup images. So we support these two different types of policies for malware scanning, where it will it will provide a means of direct accessing the backup data, backup images without any restore. So it's like a sharing of files or sharing of the data from the backup copy itself. Now, the fourth process is to assign the backup host and deploy a script. So what we can support for malware scanning scanners from a software perspective is that we provide our own NetBackup scanner, or we can support either Microsoft Defender or Symantec protection engine. Good thing is that these two are actually the top one of the top three scanners that is being surveyed in the poll that you are using, correct? So we are able to have that integration to be able to deploy scripts for integration into NetBackup. So what do we mean by deploy the script? So what it does for this script is that once this either automated or on-demand scanning has happened, it will run a script to inform this scan host, okay, which host do you want to scan, and how do you want to mount this instant access volume for this scan host to be able to scan, and of course, what files do you want to scan for the malware scanning, and then it will run the scripts. Oh, sorry, one more important thing is that, okay, the script will also update the virus definition from the internet. So a lot of times there will be questions from organization is that how do you update the antivirus or the virus definition? Because as you know, virus definition always change or change regularly or almost on a daily basis. So the script will also update the virus definition so that we always get the most updated virus definition to scan the files. So after which we will mount the instant access volumes either through NFS or CIFS, and then using the scan host to scan those files provided through instant access. Now, once the scanning is done, this information will be updated. So without this integration, there will not be any so-called passing of this data to NetBackup. So this integration provides the information so that NetBackup will know what is the result from the malware scan and be able to tag those information to the images in the catalog so that the users or the admin will understand whether a scan has already happened and what's the result from the scan. And then lastly, you will display the malware scanning results via the web UI. So now with this, some screenshots, for example, in this screen or this scan results, we can see that there are two scanning jobs that has run. One, the first scan was not impacted, scan of the backup images wasn't impacted. The second one shows that it's impacted. Now we can go down for more details about what the results is. So I can click view infected files and it will show me the results or the outputs of all those files that's been detected with viruses or malwares. Now, without this integration with the antiviruses or malware scanners, we will not be able to provide this kind of infected files results or any of those information that you see here. So this will be an important part of the integration. Now, the next part will be on the recovery. So we can provide some kind of visibilities, pre-recovery awareness, where we can understand, okay, before any of the recovery jobs, we can do a scan to ensure that the data is clean before any recovery job happens. And we can also provide some kind of file level restore flexibilities of any file of those files that are considered clean. So one screenshot over here is that if the scanning has been malware scanning has been done on a certain image, and for example, in this case, it has been known to be impacted by some malware for this backup file, this backup images. Unfortunately, you may not have any backups, So you still insist of restoring some files from this backup image. It will tell you, or it will inform you, do you still want to proceed with the recovery because these images has been impacted by malware. So there's some kind of awareness to provide to the user that this backup image has been scanned, and do you still want to proceed on doing a recovery because there are some malware being detected in the files, in these backup copies. And the good news is that if you were to refer to the previous slides on the screenshots, it can tell you which files has been impacted as well. So now, if you know that this data or these backup images has been scanned, you can restore those files that has been so-called clean within this backup image. And on top of that, we can also provide you a tool that that understands that those files that has been detected with malware, they will not restore from this backup image. And if there are previous backup images of this same host, we can restore the good known files from a previous copy back to the original host. So you can still restore, provided you do have scan results of those backup images for this host. So it provides you awareness of the data that you are trying to restore. Now, the last portion I'm going to share is on the isolated recovery environments. This is new in NetBackup 10, where it provides you so-called air gap solution or air gap environments from your production environments to environments which is so-called isolated. As you know, nowadays, there's no true air gaps if you're not using tape devices. Tape, you can do a tape offline tape out and then do an offline copy store into a vault or something. That's really true air gap. But nowadays, with technologies, you want to have network connectivities because it's much streamlined to the operations and the process. So what we can do closest is to provide you an isolated recovery environments where we will use our Flex appliance to control the firewall on these environments. So you will block off any of the communications unless it's been approved. That means, for example, in this case, the NetBackup server is being approved to replicate the data or send the data to this isolated environments. So you can pre-configure a selected time, duration, and as well as a host, which host at which time can send the data or replicate the data from production network to the isolated network. So after that time or the window has occurred, you automatically close that port so that it would be totally isolated. So you'll be independent from the original production environments. And from these isolated environments, you can do your normal operations. For example, you can do the malware scanning over here, or you can replicate the data to another locations, whether it's a cloud or another DR sites. So for resiliencies, you can also do a recovery of the data from these isolated environments to test out certain functionalities. For example, you want to do other activities from here. You want to test out a restore of a certain file or certain environments. So all this can be done within this isolated recovery environments, IRE for short. This functionality is new in NetBackup 10 and it only supported with Flex environments with NetBackup 10 worm device. Now with this, it's time for third poll. Now, Daniel, will you be able to help on the poll?
Sure. All right, for this last poll of the day, we want to know, right, do you need help in performing the upgrade and implementation, especially, right, what Chick-san shared about a lot on the malware detection capabilities. Right, just another reminder, this new feature, these new capabilities is only available in NetBackup 10. Right, so for those of you out there that are running older versions of NetBackup, you do need to get yourselves upgraded. Right, so we just want to have a quick poll out here to understand, do you need help from us from that perspective? right? So that we can then reach out to you, to extend any help needed or any guidance as well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to get any services from us, but we definitely is keen, right, to know whether do you need help in that area, or in your environment, probably you really do need some services from my end, then definitely we'll be glad to bring in our professional services colleagues to help you undertake that upgrade exercise as well. Right, of course, upgrading, there's also the area whereby we can also help to expand, right, the features and functions of NetBackup within the environment. Right, with any new versions, there are a lot of great and awesome new features that the new version brings along as well. Right, so we want to also make sure that you do have the capability, you have the aptitude to actually make sure that you make use of all the good features that you're already having within the NetBackup environment that you have. So appreciate your poll, right? Whether you need help or you don't need help, or maybe you need some form of help, which you're not sure of this time, to input your answers into that, right? So for us to have a better understanding of that, right? So appreciate everybody's input into the polls, right, for us to better understand, right, across the entire region. Again, today's audience, we are stretching all the way from Vietnam, Myanmar, all the way down south in Asia to Indonesia, right, to Philippines, right, of course, then all the way to our friendly folks down under in Australia and New Zealand, right? So do give us your input. I want to understand, do you need that extra help in performing this upgrade, and of course the implementation of this new malware detection capabilities. Just give it a couple of more seconds to get everybody's input. As with all of our tech drop-ins, right, we always want to get all these polls and questions out there, right, so that we can understand you better as well. All right, so good. Most of us probably is fairly skilled or proficient in performing the upgrade, right? Of course, any implementation of the new capabilities, there's always documentation out there. You need to refer to that as well. So for those that indicated yes or maybe, we'll probably do a reach out to you to understand better how we can help you with that area as well. So before we wrap up, maybe on this same topic, right? We're talking about help to upgrade, right? Essentially, there's also a lot of information out there in our Veritas.com website, that we can point you to get more information, right? If you want to do any self-help, there's the upgrade portal, which you can actually go through as well. Of course, with our SOT site, the sort.veritas.com, there's actually also a installation and upgrade checklist. You just need to indicate which version of product you're using, which version, which OS platform you are, and which version you're planning to go to as well. You then generate a list of documentations and checklists for you to perform all the necessary verification and also the documentation to assist you with the upgrade help as well. Because just a friendly reminder on some of the EOSL date, right? So if you do see out there, we do publish the EOSL dates for a lot of for the past versions of our NetBackup as well. So if you were to look at some of the versions, right, do review those and then plan accordingly, for that upgrade requirements, right, as per all infrastructure or operation cadence, right, in order not to reach the EOSL date itself, right? So I think this concludes the session from a condensed perspective that we have for today, right? So now we want to open up for some Q&A. I think the questions are coming in fast and furious in the Q&A window as well. We have our colleagues, my friendly architects, in the background, David and KK answering those questions. Maybe I want to pick up a couple of questions to get Chik-san to answer live as well. I think one very common question is, do you actually support other malware scanners, right? If not, what can customers do?
Yep, this is one of the most commonly asked questions by organizations. At the moment, as I mentioned during the presentation, we support 2 other third-party vendors, which is Symantec as well as Microsoft Defender, on the integration. But do take note that this is not the extensive list that we are planning of supporting. So if you are using other third parties, we can definitely engage our own consulting services to understand your environments and then be able to do the integration of your current malware scanners or your preferred malware scanners, and be able to send the information back to NetBackup. So the integration work can be done. The requirements of that malware scanner is that it needs to support either command line or APIs, because we are calling that via the scripts to so-called integrate with that scanners.
Thanks, Jackson. So maybe I'll just bring out one last question here that I see in the chat that's asked a few times as well. So how do we deal with impacted files? Are we able to delete the files within the backup copies? If not, then what is the recommended process? You know, if we discover those files and we still want to do some form of a recovery, what's the best practice?
Sure. Normally, we don't. Okay, from a backup perspective, we do not make any changes to the backup images, because this will jeopardize the integrity of the backup. If anybody can just backup or delete one file from a backup, then there's a risk to the organization that anybody can also delete one file from any of the backup jobs or backup images. So we do not delete any to ensure the integrity of that backup image. The recommendation or the best practice, actually, it depends on the organization. So one way is to delete away or expire the backup image if it's found to be infected by malwares. But it also depends on what files has been impacted. As you can see from my screenshots in the presentations, it's possible to restore other files that is not impacted. That means it's considered deemed clean or scanned clean by the malware scanners, and be able to restore those files to the original or alternate locations. And if the scanning has been done for other backup images or backup jobs of the same host, we can also restore those files from those as well. So one way is to delete away or expire those infected backup images. The other way is to keep it there and then let it expire automatically, because there is still a portion of data that could be used for any recovery jobs. But do understand that NetBackup UI, once it has been scanned, so-called by the malware scanners, it will have that entries or that records of the information inside the catalogs. So during any restore activities, it will reflect out that this backup jobs has been scanned, and if any of the malwares or if it's found to be infected by any of the malwares. So you have some visibilities in the end, and you can decide whether you want to either delete or restore that file or that for any files from the backup image.
Thanks, Jackson. Definitely. So they definitely adopt that best practice. I think sometimes due to regulations or compliance needs, it may not be so easy to expire those images as well. So the good thing about those malware that's inside the backup image, you guys know what? Because they are actually dormant. They are not actually running an active OS. So with that, right, essentially, even though if we need to, we can actually isolate those backup images if you want to as well. If there's any requirements, any compliance or regulatory needs according to your company, we can also allow that to happen as well.
Yeah, maybe one more thing I would like to add. Some questions that I get from organizations when I talk about this new feature is that does it really replace any of the malware or antivirus that is in the organizations? Actually, these functionalities, malware scanner within NetBackup, complements the entire end-to-end flow of protecting your environments. Because malwares or real-time scanners, they can scan only to a certain extent. Anything that is so-called known to be or known virus, known malware, they will be able to detect. But sometimes if it's a day zero, how do you know when it's going to be known in the environments? And if it can only be detected or known by the malware vendors on day 10. That means it has happened 10 days after day 0. Then you have 10 days of data that could be infected or risk of being infected. So this will the backups will scanning can complement the so-called the front-end real-time scanners, because we can know what which backups are already infected, because we have the so-called the back-end intelligence of scanning those data that has been backed up for the duration of this so-called day 0 to day 9. So you have the assurance that all those backups are considered good or deemed to be infected by this malware. So it's a complement to your existing infrastructure of security.
Yep. Thanks, Jason, for the added comments as well. So I think this concludes the time we have for today. If there's any further questions that you have, do feel free to send your questions to the email over there, asr.team@veritas.com. We'll be sending the post-event information to you as well. Do watch out from our marketing emails as well on that. So appreciate everybody's time that you're spending with us here today. So we look forward to the next session of the Tech Drop-ins that we have with you together. So have a good day. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.